Hurricane Idalia is headed for the west coast of Florida. Good morning, I'm Mike Naso with the latest Tuesday morning update on Hurricane Idalia, recently upgraded from the National Hurricane Center. There's the satellite imagery, the infrared. We have a strengthening hurricane now in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, and it is going to pack a wallop as it impacts the west coast of Florida and the Big Bend region as a major hurricane early tomorrow on Wednesday. We also still have Hurricane Franklin, a very powerful Category 4, turning out to sea. We are not going to talk about Franklin this morning. We are going to focus on Idalia. Here is the latest on Hurricane Idalia as of 4 a.m. Central Time. That's 5 a.m. Eastern. Idalia was at 23.1 north, 85.0 west. Winds of 75 miles per hour is a Category 1 hurricane. The pressure 981 millibars and falling. It is now accelerating. 2 days ago it was stationary. Yesterday it was moving 7-8 miles an hour. Now it's up to 14 miles per hour. So moving north at 14, and that motion should continue with an eastward component, maybe even faster. And then by about tomorrow morning, mid-morning, it should be making landfall somewhere in the Big Bend region of Florida as a major hurricane, a Category 3 hurricane, probably about 120 mile per hour winds, a very powerful strike on the Big Bend area. They have not had a major hurricane make a direct landfall there since the year 1896. We also have a hurricane warning from the middle of Longboat Key all the way over to Indian Pass. Hurricane warning still in effect for western Cuba. And we have a tropical storm watch now for the Georgia and South Carolina coastline, because by Thursday, Idalia should be moving offshore as a tropical storm. And even though we're not positive what it's going to do, there's some indication that it could get left behind. And if high pressure builds back in, we could actually have Idalia come back towards the coast. So that's going to be a whole thing that we'll have to deal with. That happens sometimes, but sometimes we think it's going to happen and it doesn't. So we're just going to wait and see. But right now, the main focus is what's going to happen to Florida over the next 24 to 48 hours. This is the water vapor imagery, and I wanted to show you, notice earlier on how flat it was here on the northwest side. Now it's much more circular on the northwest side. That is a sign that the wind shear is letting up, and it is starting to intensify. It's been bursting, and finally it burst enough to get those winds to hurricane force. Here's the wind shear map, and again, much lower wind shear values than we saw even 24 hours ago. And with the trough interaction to the north, sometimes they almost kind of have an influence to where they strengthen even more. We saw that with Hurricane Opal, we saw that with Hurricane Charlie, we saw that with Hurricane Ian last year. So we're hoping that that doesn't happen, but it looks like rapid strengthening is likely, especially over the very, very warm waters. How warm do these waters get? Believe me, they are warm. Off Key West right now, we're looking at 88.6, or 88 degree water temperature is nothing to mess around with. In the area off the Big Bend, 87.8 degrees. So that is very, very serious. We're not talking about 80 degree water for a hurricane or 82. We're talking 87, 88 degrees here in the Gulf of Mexico. Off Tampa there, you're talking 87.3. So the waters are not just warm, they're extremely warm, and that's going to allow Hurricane Idalia to continue to intensify. Brian McNulty's radar page keeps us updated. Look at there at the end. Watch how this eye has beautifully closed off there on the Cuban radar. That means the system is now a well-defined inner core hurricane, and once it has this eye wall like this, now it can start to deepen much more rapidly. So we've seen the eye develop on radar into a beautiful, well-defined eye there, and that is very, very bad. A very bad sign of things to come with intensification of this hurricane. We will see rainfall, and again, 6 to 10 inches easy. Tallahassee to Jacksonville, you guys are going to be wet, going all the way into South Carolina, and then off Cape Hatteras by Thursday, we're still going to have rainfall. So again, there will be a flood threat, but the main threat for Florida is the storm surge. Remember, we saw that last year with Hurricane Ian. The wind, we have good building codes in Florida. You could hide from the wind, but when it comes to that water, it will level buildings and it will suck you out. So you got to be very, very careful. We're looking in the area here of the Steinhatchee River and Homosassa Springs, the Big Bend, upwards of 8 to 12 feet of storm surge. And then we could have high amounts as well to the south, anywhere from 4 to 9 feet from the Anclote River to the middle of Longboat Key, including Tampa Bay at 4 to 7 feet. Now further south for Charlotte Harbor and Fort Myers and Marco Island, Sanibel, the area is impacted so badly last September by Hurricane Ian. Right now we're thinking 2 to 4 feet, so it's going to be, as the flow around the hurricane pushes into the coast, you'll have water rises. But again, it could be really, really serious near and to the right of where the eye of Hurricane Idalia makes landfall. So we're going to watch it very, very carefully. The inundation possibilities are very scary. This graphic from the National Hurricane Center shows greater than 9 feet in the red, and this goes well inland near Homosassa Springs and the Steinhatchee River up there in Spring Hill. Very foresty, less populated, but still, it's part of Florida. It's not like it's the middle of nowhere necessarily. You got Horseshoe Beach, you got Cross City. All of these areas could see dramatic water rises. Suwannee River, all the way up there. Gainesville, you're going to get in on the wind and the rain, as well as Tallahassee and Valdosta. So you guys all have to be on the alert, be looking at your hurricane plans, listen to local officials, and get out of Dodge if and when you are told to do so. And it's going to happen quick because you don't have much time. The most likely arrival time of these winds is sometime tonight around 8 p.m. or overnight tonight and into tomorrow, Wednesday morning. So again, very, very serious event here along the west coast of Florida, as we will have a major hurricane landfall somewhere there between, say, Tampa and Apalachicola in the Big Bend region. We're still trying to zero in exactly where it's going to go. Here's a hurricane from 1896. It took a track right off western Cuba like Idalia and then slammed into the Big Bend, and that was a major hurricane, Category 3, and that is the last time we've had a Category 3 major hurricane or higher in this area of the Big Bend of Florida. You would think they'd get hit more often, but they really don't. It's kind of a sparsely populated area. It's kind of a little concave in there, and so they'll go to the Panhandle and they'll go to Southwest Florida, but they miss you a lot north of Tampa and to the east of Apalachicola, but this one looks like it won't miss you. Here's the water vapor image again. Look at it fanning out there a little bit better. That wind shear is definitely decreasing, and as we saw on the radar, there is a well-defined eye developing underneath this deep convection, and that's a central dense overcast, a CDO, and that's bursting, and we're going to see the eye eventually pop out on the satellite and take aim. It's kind of hard to see on this map, but the Florida Keys are right here, and then the Florida coastline is right in there, and so we're going to have this hurricane take a track towards Florida over the next 24 hours. Very, very dangerous. Listen to local officials, and stay tuned. We're going to have much more on Hurricane Idalia as we go through the afternoon and tonight and into tomorrow with the landfall of a major hurricane along the west coast of Florida. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on Hurricane Idalia. Stay tuned for further updates.